All right, President Obama is weighing in on the future of his Deferred Action Program. Listen.
I will urge the President-elect and the incoming administration to think long and hard before they are endangering the status of what, for all practical purposes, are American kids.
But before President-elect Trump can take action, does President Obama have the power to pardon these illegal immigrants?
And would he do it before he left? Let's talk to former Dade County, Florida Circuit County Judge.
Wow, you threw county in there a bunch of times.
I did. The key is county. So could the President of the United States, before he exits, pardon, a blanket pardon for illegal?
He could. Let me just say as a disclaimer, personally, I'm completely opposed to illegal immigration, but I do agree with the President on this, because I've met children who were here, grew up with your kids, played at your house, went to school with your kids, and I had a little girl run up to me and say, can I be a lawyer even though I'm not here legally? And I said, well, someday don't you think you'll be here legally? And her eyes just welled up. She's like 12 years old, and she goes, I don't think so. And it's just heartbreaking when you personalize, when you really meet them. That being said, legally, yes, he could pardon them. He could do a blanket pardon, just the same way that President Carter pardoned all the draft dodgers. He could do it all in unnamed individuals who violated this law. Or he could do it the way President Ford pardoned President Nixon with crimes committed within these dates. However, it becomes very difficult because the immigration laws are massive, massive. So you have
pardon from what?
Exactly, and that's the problem. You can't do a blanket pardon because then you're pardoning people who were already deported.
Yeah, what age are you DACA? All right? Did you come here at 2, 1, 3, 5, 7, 11?
All
so
of those
what do you
issues.
say?
All of those issues. But not only that, you have so many laws that you would have to pardon for that you'd have to cherry pick among the hundreds and hundreds of immigration laws. You have people who came here illegally, people who came here legally and then overstayed, people who failed to depart after a judge ordered them to depart, people who did identity theft in order to hide their identity, people who did Social Security fraud, tax fraud, gave false statements. So you have all of that mess, on top of which you can only pardon, or the president can only pardon for criminal offenses.
But Judge, I don't think he's going to be doing this. I think first he's got to get the criminals out, and I think by the time he gets to that, there'll be, I sense, some type of pathway to citizenship, which 65% of the American public wants. That's what I sense is going to happen. But first he wants to secure the wall, which leads us to sanctuary cities. Where's the president's power, and where are the mayor's powers?
Well, the sanctuary city concept is kind of all subsumed together because you have people who, Americans view it very differently because sanctuary cities will do several different things. I mean, there are some sanctuary cities who will just, we pull you over in traffic and we realize you're not legal and we're not going to turn you over to the feds. But you haven't committed a crime, you're working, you're paying taxes and all that stuff. We're just not going to do that. But most Americans are thinking, no, your sanctuary cities are protecting people who go out and commit a crime. They have them in jail after they finish with a conviction. Then they don't turn them over to the feds and they let them go. And everybody's opposed to that and should be. And some people are opposed to all of it. The feds really can't force the state to enforce federal law. They legally can't.
But they could hold the cash.
And that's where the power is. In other words, if they go to a city and say, okay, no, you don't have to help us, because typically you put an ICE detainer, basically you contact the local authority and say, you're holding so-and-so, we want you to hold them for us because we're going to deport them when you're done with them. And cities typically across the country cooperate. And then when they finish your sentence, they go, you're being held for ICE. And then they turn them over, and that's what happens. They could very easily say, look, if you're not going to help us, we're not going to give you any federal funds. And that is a big motivating factor because these cities beg for federal money.
Yeah, it all comes down to the money.
Absolutely. So they have the power of the purse, even though they can't legally force the governor to, and they can't charge them. There's no crime in failing to assist the federal government enforce federal crime.
Judge, thanks for being here this morning.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pride of Dade County.
Thank you.